Good afternoon, members of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports Affairs, members of Parliament, support, staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and members of the media. Welcome to the continuation of this meeting of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport Affairs, number 3 of today, Thursday, August 31st, 2023. A special welcome is extended to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, and the Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Mr. Omar Atley, and of course their respective support staff. We have established a quorum of 10 members and 2 non-members. Let us please stand for a moment of silence. I have received notification of notice of absence from the following members: MP William Marlin. We now move on to notifications. I look to the floor. Are there any members of Parliament who wish to have the word? I see MP Westcott Williams. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. A very good afternoon to you and our support staff. A good afternoon to my colleagues, and a good afternoon and a word of welcome to the ministers here this afternoon and their support staff. Madam Chair Lady, this is, for me at least, the first meeting in public. It's not a public meeting like we refer to public meetings of Parliament, but it is, for me, the first opportunity in this setting to join many of my colleagues who have expressed words of condolences, support, and strength to our staff member, Jamie Lee, and her family with the passing of her son, Justice. Of course, Madam Chair Lady, as you can imagine, personally, I have already conveyed my sentiments to Jamie Lee and her family. However, from a broader perspective, I heard a phrase this morning from a professional, which I want to share because it gave me some comfort. It gave me some comfort listening and hearing the many comments that have been made in support of the family of the late Justice, our young boy Justice. And that is that, and this I give to the public of St. Martin, because as I said, it was comforting to me. And I don't take the credit for it. I heard it from a professional. And that is that there is no why in suicide. There is no why in suicide, meaning the answers are not easy to come by. Madam Chair Lady, a service organization of which I am part, and that has a global theme for this year that has to do with mental health and wellness. So also from that perspective, I would be placing emphasis on this matter, generally speaking. In the past, I have had conversations in this setting, at least, with the Minister of VSA regarding the state of mental health on St. Martin, and I will continue with those discussions. Madam Chair Lady, I would have liked to make that announcement, notification if you wish, yesterday. However, after first of all thinking I would have been late to the meeting, and then with the traffic I decided it was not I could not make the meeting. Of course, I followed it to see how far the meeting was and was getting. And when I look at that, Madam Chair Lady, at that meeting, I asked myself how effective are we being as a parliament in providing answers to the people of St. Martin? And in particular, in that committee, the Committee of Petitions, which is a committee singled out from all committees for Parliament to give answers. And I say this because that meeting yesterday in the presence of two ministers, the one of Romou and of Tiat, that was more than 16 months after the petition was received by Parliament. The petition goes back to April of 2022. However, from my perspective, I did learn a few things out of that meeting, but not positive or conducive to Parliament receiving information. For example, I learned from that meeting that the two ministries mentioned are still synchronizing the beach policies. Evidently, the right hand does not know what the left hand is doing. This matter has been questioned for even further back than April 2022, and still we are being told here, without batting an eye or an eye being batted, that we are synchronizing the beach policies. We learned that with all the hoopla surrounding the signing of an SLA with the Nature Foundation, that the Nature Foundation can be asked for their advice on developments. Meaning, it's to the discretion of the minister whether he or she does. We learned, without the ministers informing Parliament of this, that a case has been filed by the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin on behalf of Sun Resorts regarding the property, not so much the property, but the beach in Mullet Bay and the structures on that. Would not one think that given the discussions and the actions in Parliament regarding Mullet Bay and the beach, that such information would have been forthcoming to the Parliament? No, but we learn it as a sort of an afterthought. We learned that this government, when talking about a residential economic policy, is referring to the one of 2009 from a government that loves to talk about, oh, but they did it so back then, and we got to change it, and we got all of this to do and all of that to do. Their residential economic policy, in terms of zoning economic activity, goes back to 2009. Madam Chair Lady, I take note that some of my colleagues are getting a little jittery, but this is my opportunity for notifications. And I continue, Madam Chair Lady, with your permission. Madam Chair Lady, may I?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. So as I was saying, just that it's understood, so the residential economic policy of this government is the one of 2009. But we learned, well, we don't have capacity. Well, that means that you are in accordance with that residential economic policy. Madam Chair Lady, thank you for the opportunity to highlight these areas. And we have other meetings coming up, and I will continue with my notifications on the topic that I believe are of importance to the people of St. Martin, amongst which GEBE. But that is for another meeting. But I thank you for your indulgence, Madam Chair Lady. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you, to my colleague members of Parliament, good afternoon, sorry, to the Secretary General, the ministers and support staff with us, those in the Tribune, and those following this meeting. Madam Chair, I first would like to extend condolences to a former classmate and a friend, Shadeska Richardson, who passed away tragically, very suddenly recently. Condolences to her sister, who is also a friend of mine, Sharella, and the rest of the family, who and the 5 children that she left behind at a young age. It seems more and more, it feels like it, that we're losing some of our young people, and whatever the circumstances may be, it's never a pleasant thing, especially one like this that hits close to home. So my condolences to all of them. Perhaps on a more positive note, I do want to welcome back our Chairman of Parliament, Mr. Siddharth Kuki Bijlani. Many of us have been praying for him, for his successful surgery and his speedy recovery. And based on the fact that he arrived yesterday and was here to chair the faction leaders meeting and is here with us in Parliament, it's safe to assume his recovery is going extremely well. So God bless you, Kuki. Continue your speedy recovery. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. I see that there's no further need from the MPs to give any further notification. So I too would now like to take the opportunity to welcome back our colleague and friend, MP Siddharth Bijlani. It's great to have you back in our presence, and we do pray that you continue to have a continued recovery process. Welcome. We go over to the agenda point for this afternoon. Parliament received a letter from my person on October 19, 2021, IS 146, 2021-2022, with the request that a meeting of this committee be convened with the ministers of VSA and the Minister of ECYS to discuss the above-mentioned agenda point. Additionally, on May 10, 2022, Parliament received a copy of the Teen Times Period Poverty Legislation Proposal IS 877, 2021-2022. These documents can be found on the P drive of Parliament. Today's meeting is a continuation of the meeting which started on January 25th, 2023, during which both the Minister of VSA and the Minister of ECYS gave a presentation, and members of Parliament were given the opportunity to pose questions to the ministers. After some closing remarks by both ministers, the meeting was then adjourned to allow the ministers time to prepare the answers to the questions posed. At this time, I would like to give the floor to the Minister of VSA, Minister Omar Otley, to answer the questions posed by the members of Parliament. Minister Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. To my recollection, we did answer the questions. So I was under the impression that we are coming back for whether it's clarifications or to update the Parliament on what we have done since. But we did answer the questions. I see some members are shaking their head, yes. So we did.
Okay, so is there members, are we okay with the minister going over? Because I think then you have a presentation.
Yeah, I have a presentation.
I look to the floor. Yes, okay. Minister, you have the floor and you can continue with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair, good day to the honorable members of Parliament, the viewing and listening public, my honorable colleague, Minister Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel. I'm honored to sit here today and present our findings and what we have, the course of action we have taken since our last meeting. So without further ado, I direct your attention to the presentation. So we move to the agenda of the presentation. We have introduction, primary goals, questionnaire at schools, distribution of feminine hygiene products, summary, and conclusion. In response to the concerns highlighted with reference to period poverty, the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, through my person, Minister Omar Otley, sought to address the matter via a two-pronged approach through the ministry. Period poverty refers to the struggle or inability to access menstrual products due to financial constraints. One, the primary goals, one of them were to investigate the reality and gravity of the situation within the school system. Two, to procure and distribute feminine hygiene products, pads, to the various school boards on St. Martin. Throughout the months of March 2023, the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, in collaboration with Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, collected data on the topic of period poverty in schools via a digital questionnaire. The questionnaire was completed by 71 teachers, school managers, social workers, guidance counselors, student care providers, and other school staff. Respondents stem from 17 different primary and secondary schools on St. Martin. The goal of the questionnaire was to determine whether period poverty is a problem requiring of further attention and action within St. Martin schools. Here we see, in the meantime, in light of the forthcoming questionnaire, the outcomes, myself, in my capacity as Minister of VSA, and through the Community Development, Family and Humanitarian Affairs, we distributed 12,000 feminine sanitary napkins to the Teen Times and the school boards of the Department of Public Education in the months of April and May. So we did take a course of action. The overview of distribution of products are as seen. The Romou Catholic School Board, 1,200 pieces. We have the Methodist School Board, 1,200 pieces. Protestant School Board, 400 pieces. Seventh-day Adventist, 400 pieces. Department of Education, 1,200 pieces. St. Martin Academy, PSVE, 1,200 pieces. Foundation of Charlotte Brookshire, 400 pieces. And MPC and Sandal, 2,400 pieces. This distribution was done in accordance with the school boards. This was not done by the ministry. The summary, based on the findings obtained by the questionnaires, 52.2% agreed that period poverty is an issue in their school. 55.7% exhibited a lack of familiarity with the concept known as period poverty. 67.1% of the participants said that they either offered or supplied menstrual hygiene products. These are the teachers and staff, as we stated, guidance counselors, etc. However, a significant proportion of 42.3% stated that the provision of these goods occur less frequently than once per month. 54.5% reported that students sought their assistance of obtaining free menstrual hygienic product due to the lack of immediate access to such items, which means the menstruate would happen while being in school. So it's not a customary thing. It would just be if it happens while in school, and as stated before, it occurs possibly less than once a month based on the survey. 70.4% use their own money to buy feminine hygiene products for students in need. Summary. A substantial proportion, amounting to 84.5%, expressed their belief that schools should offer these items free of charge. Furthermore, an overwhelming majority, encompassing 91.4% of the respondents, concurred with the notion that the government should extend support to schools in order to facilitate the provision of free menstrual hygienic product. 64.3% expressed that their social workers or classroom teachers should be responsible for the distribution of menstrual hygienic products. A majority of participants, specifically 76.1%, expressed their disagreement with the notion that the cost of menstrual products is within affordable range. The conclusion, what we see fit, in essence, is that based on the pilot project with the distribution of 12,000 sanitary napkins, we see and we were advised by the school boards that this amount would be sufficient to take us through a school year or possibly 2 school years. So based on this, what I turn to my colleague, and based on our group discussion, it would be advised that the ministry allocates a specific amount to specifically assisting the schools with a yearly budget to assist the schools with acquiring these sanitary napkins. What we would do, we are in the process of gathering more information from stakeholders on another note as it pertains to period poverty in general. However, through you, Madam Chair, the purpose of this meeting was to combat period poverty within the schools. So in the meantime, we have taken the course of action to try to assist this phenomenon. I thank you, and I look forward to any questions from the members of Parliament.
Thank you,
I don't know if
Minister.
my
I
colleague-
look to the floor, and I see MP Westcott Williams wishes to have the floor. MP Westcott, you have the floor.
Thank you once again, Madam Chair Lady, and I wondered about the answers to the question. I saw you were trying to get it confirmed when the minister mentioned, or rather asked if it was not so. But in any case, I was wondering about all of those answers provided. What I do know, Madam Chair Lady, is that, and this is what, no, firstly, let me back up there. Minister, thank you for your presentation and for the information, because indeed it was a matter of, do we have data? Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? So I am grateful for the information that you have gathered, for the distribution that has started, and that seems to be an amount that can be used going forward. So thanks for that. But I guess in order for this not to be incidental type of assistance, that a policy, and I believe it should, be outlined. One of the things that I acknowledge in that there is an issue where period poverty is concerned. And it is not for St. Martin to feel any way, because like I have put in my proposal to the ministers, it is a worldwide phenomenon. And so we just have to decide how St. Martin is going to deal with it, since we also face it. And so now my question, after all that has been said, Minister, I sent you a proposal via Parliament regarding this matter as to possible ways that this can be formalized. Let me use that word. And and the minister was to come back and present reaction to that. That's why I refer to the answers to the questions at the beginning. And I would like to know where things stand. One, does the minister feel that this matter, and with the data that we now have, this matter warrants some type of a formal position by government where this matter is concerned, that it does not become incidental and then maybe next year we don't have a budget, so we, those kind of things. That's my question. And if the minister, secondly, if the minister has a response on my proposal that was officially sent to the ministry regarding the issue of period poverty. So if I can get answers to, and elucidation if possible, to those two questions, I would very much appreciate it. As I mentioned before, thank you, Minister, for collecting some data to give us an idea and indication what we're dealing with where the matter of period poverty is concerned on St. Martin. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. MP Duncan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the ministers and their teams. Good afternoon to my colleagues and everyone tuned in. First, Madam Chair, through you, I'd just like to thank the minister for this presentation. To his ministry, all of the departments that did this work, extremely pragmatic approach, and one that to me is an example that can be used by other ministers, in the government. One of our most important stakeholders, the youth, came to us and said, listen, we have a problem. And they have been voicing their problems for years. There's a number of problems that they have. And they came to us, and the Ministry of CECYSA said, okay, we're going to collect data, and we are going to try to solve this issue. And I really appreciate and I commend the minister and the ministry and everyone involved for this approach, really and truly. Just as a general statement, Madam Chair, often we do, especially when it comes to any matters that involve the youth, we often consult the adults. we speak to the school managers and the counselors and the principals. Luckily, we do have a body such as the Teen Times that are the voice of the youth, but I would love for us as a country, whether it's parliament, whether it's government, to consult the youth themselves some more directly and hear them directly. I think that is extremely important. I also, too, like MP Westcott Williams, look forward to having a discussion on mental health, because this is something that I wrote letters to government on, and I did receive answers about a year, I think, ago. That is another meeting, but I think it is important that we speak to the youth. But again, I would like to commend the Ministry of VSA for taking this on head on and actually doing something about it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And with your indulgence and the indulgence of the ministers here present this afternoon, like we received a presentation and an update with respect to government's actions as far as the issue rather of period poverty is concerned, I would like, if the ministers can, because it's not often we have you both here together, and oftentimes it's after a lengthy time that we have you together. So acknowledging the fact that we have you both here together, can any one of you, through you, Madam Chair Lady, any one of the ministers give an update on another issue which has received much attention from the Parliament and this Member of Parliament in particular, and again, also Teen Times, and that is the issue of vaping. And to me, and this is just my observation, since we have been discussing this matter in Parliament and in government circles and at the ministry, I think the sale of these devices has gotten even more broad, if I can use that word, and absolutely no control. I invite the ministers to walk in randomly, and I don't want to single out because that's not the only place they are for sale, but to walk in randomly into a supermarket. I'm not even going to say what kind, and check it out. I was flabbergasted when, after these discussions and the public discussions on this matter, one would think that the retailers would be a little, a little more cautious, maybe a little warning label here and there. But that seems not to be the case. So, Madam Chair Lady, my question is whether any of the two ministers, I would love if both of them could, give an update where this matter is concerned. We have spoken about it, and I know it carried, I don't know if it still does, the concern of the ministers here. And again, Madam Chair Lady, for me, it's just a matter of getting an update. Has anything been done? What has been done? I would love to see a similar survey done regarding this use in the schools. Because again, reports that I get, starting in primary education, are alarming. So that's my question. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. MP Pontevelet, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, my colleagues in Parliament, of course, our Secretary General, Honourable Ministers, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, and also Minister Otley and the support staff, persons who are viewing and are listening to this meeting. Madam Chair, also like my colleagues, I want to thank the Minister for the presentation. The issue of period poverty has an origin. And basically, we are talking here about school-going children. In other words, it is not expected that these children have the funds to buy what we call them sanitary napkins. So it means that the parents are the ones who have to do so. But if the parents themselves are living in poverty, then it comes down to the children. So the issue is, Madam Chair, what is the source now of the fact that these children are going to school without having the necessary poverty or sanitary napkins in order to take care of themselves once this happens. So I believe that the issue, and I appreciate the survey and everything, but I think we should look deeper to see, because providing them, I believe, is a good venture to do. But at the same time, we have to look at the root cause of why is it that these children don't have the support and the financial assistance from their parents in order to have these sanitary napkins. Is it that the parent is single parent? Is it unemployment? Is it minimum wage? What is the cause that this is happening? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP George Pontiflet. I will now go over to, before I allow the ministers to answer the questions posed, I will now go over to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon to you and the Griffier. Good afternoon to the honorable members of Parliament, those in the Tribune, and all the persons who are listening to us by way of whichever medium. Good afternoon to my colleague and the support staff that we have here, and those in the ministry that is assisting from a distance. Madam Chair, first let me just, in regards to the topic at hand and the agenda point regarding period poverty, in the answers given before, I did state that after checking with the various school boards, that there was no real issue financially for the school boards to have the products available. I have also explained that if there is a school board that feels that financially they cannot afford to have funds for these products, they can easily ask for an extra subsidy to make it available. When we listen to the information provided by my colleague, Minister of ASAM, Minister Otley, and we look at the amount of products that were made available, and we understand that those amount, which we thought in the beginning was a little bit, right, that they can nearly last for more than a year. Now, on one hand, it sounds good, but then on the other hand, we must realize that if those amount of products would last for nearly 2 years, that in itself isn't so good, because we don't want to have the amount of products stuck up in a school, those type of products stuck in a school for so long. So what I'm indicating to the members of Parliament is that provisions are in place to make sure that the school boards can have sufficient products available for the students at hand. I concur with the member of Parliament who indicate that a survey should be done, and I think it is okay, we can do the survey, and also to have some questions go to the persons directly who this is related to, and that is to the students. That is my answer in regards to period poverty. In regards to the question of vaping, I would like to be straight with the member of Parliament. The topic at hand has the attention of the government, and as I indicated before in a previous meeting, that it will be an interministerial approach. So the idea is to look at the ordinance that was used in regards to drinking, and to see how the product can be listed as one of the products that are not sold to minors. This project has been given to the organization, and when we have a follow-up, an update, we can bring this back to the members of Parliament. So we do have a direction in which we want to go with the topic of vaping. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Samuel. I look to the floor of Parliament, and I see MP Bryson would like to have the floor. MP Bryson. Oh, wait. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, just a brief follow-up to the minister, and I heard the Minister of ECYS concluding his remarks with if he has a follow-up or when he gets a follow-up, that can be shared. So I would like to know very concretely, when was the interministerial work group established? And then what actions have been undertaken since? Did they have 3-4 meetings? Do they have a position paper, or outline, whatever? But you see, too often, when we ask as Parliament for information, we are told that there is a work group, and okay, fine, there is one. When was it established, and what have they done since their establishment? Let me make it specific what I'm asking. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon once again. The last remark perhaps prompts the need for me to get a little bit of clarity regarding the interaction with the school and what they are saying, because maybe I misunderstood. The minister, if I understood correctly, Madam Chair, is saying that if the school believes there is a need to provide such, that they can ask for it in their subsidy. But based on the data that we've just received, I think the need is pretty clear. Should it not be or request funds? Maybe the minister can clarify that part. So like I said, it would be good to get some clarity with that, because it can come across like there is no need, so would they need to apply for it? Or can the government not initiate this? Based on the numbers that you have a certain estimates, it can be done in collaboration with VSA. But I think that needs to certainly be clarified, because it should not be the case that in a situation, and we've had meetings about the subsidies before with its based per number of students. So are we going to say, well, based on a number of female students and so on? I think what we should do is go based on the statistics that have been provided, that seems to be well researched by the Ministry of VSA, and start concluding that there is an issue and there will be a cost component and it should be addressed. Also, I just wanted to add, in terms of there was a statement as well, again, maybe it should be clarified, about whether stocking the sanitary products after a certain time would pose an issue. Not being a female myself, not knowing exactly the expiration date on some products, I did kind of look online, and the average expiration date of most products are between 5 to 7 years. So I don't think having a cabinet stocked with 1 year's worth of products will be an issue, unless maybe there's certain brands that are different, but generally what I've been able to research online, it's not an issue. So I don't think we should be concerned about that. We should just get this done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Any other member of Parliament wishes to have the floor? I see no need. Ministers, would you like to say something? Minister Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the clarity that was sought from, let me say, the Member of Parliament Bryson, I am specifically referring to the funds that are needed to have the products available. So when the ministry spoke to the school boards, that did not pose an issue. That was not a problem. So it is the funds. So the products can be available, and if the products can be available, and if the school boards deemed it necessary that they need extra funds to make sure that it is continually available, they can request the subsidy for that. That is the clarity that is needed here. And the question in regard to Member of Parliament Westcott Williams as to when the decision was made for the committee to research the situation with vaping, that will be brought to Parliament.
MP Westcott Williams, you would like to have the floor?
Yeah, just briefly, to make sure that I understand the minister. You said brought to Parliament. Am I understand that? Okay, so at some future point, Madam Chair, Lady, through you, if I can just hear from the minister within the next week or so, we'll receive the answer and the update from the. So just if you could give me a time period. Thank you, Madam Chair, Lady.
Minister Samuel?
Madam Chair, that can be provided within a week.
Thank you, Minister. Since there seems to be no other member of parliament who wishes to have the floor, I would just like to indicate that since this topic was brought to my person, I have had discussions with, or been having discussions with the Minister of VSA, and indeed, they himself and I believe the Minister of Education have thoroughly looked at this particular issue. And I believe that the cost have been estimated at 12,000 guilders, and I will definitely be having a further discussion with the Minister of Education as to having this amount be put in the budget for the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, so that it does not have to be something that the schools have to ask for, rather than it will be in the budget, and the line items can be identified, and also what the specific costs are for specific pads. So I would like to thank the ministers and thank my colleagues here this afternoon. If no one else wishes to have the floor, I see MP Westcott Williams wishes to have the floor. MP Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Lady. It's just that I thought it was still coming after the Minister of ECYS spoke, but my question regarding the proposal that is with government, and that government had indicated they will send us a response on the proposal. There's some very specific steps that have been proposed by me to the minister, and I just would like the reaction, the formal reaction by government to that proposal. So if the ministers can give me an indication as to that, please. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Ministers, which one of you would like to have the floor? The floor is yours. Minister
Thank you.
Otley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to MP Sarah Westcott Williams and the rest of the Parliament. Indeed, basically, for those who are now viewing, the proposed policy by MP Sarah Westcott Williams was just to basically identify that period poverty exists, certain steps that will be taking place, I guess, in the absence of, there's no Minister Omar Atley or any other minister, we can just continue to address the matter. But however, we're in the discussion, seeing that if we can have the budget amendment that will allow the Ministry of ECYS, based on the discussion, to continuously supply these pads or hygiene products to the females in school, then we would have basically a plaster for the sore, a solution moving forward. However, as it relates to period poverty in itself, MP, that's why we also stated that at this moment we're in Parliament for period poverty within schools, but as MP George correctly stated, and as you stated, period poverty do exist, and that is where now we're doing that essence of the research for that legislation.
Thank you, Minister. I would like to thank once again the members of Parliament for your contribution towards this meeting, and thank the ministers for having given their feedback. I see Minister Samuel would like to have the floor one more time. Minister Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just before you close, I would like to take this opportunity to convey words of condolence and strength to Ms. Peterson and to the community of St. Martin, and knowing that the mother worked at Parliament, also to the Parliament of St. Martin, with the last of the young one that have taken place. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I would now like to hereby close this meeting. Meeting closed.